the day invaders landed on Earth, and the Council realized humanity wasn't what they assumed. Part 1: The Quiet Before. The morning started like any other Tuesday in Seoul. The sun was rising over the tall buildings. People were walking to work. Children were going to school. Coffee shops were full. Street vendors were setting up their carts. Nobody knew that this would be the last normal morning for a very long time. Woke up at 6 in the morning. He was 34 years old and worked as a firefighter. His apartment was small and quiet, too quiet sometimes. His wife had left him 8 months ago. She said he cared more about saving strangers than coming home on time. Maybe she was right. He did not know anymore. He made instant coffee and looked out the window. The sky was clear and blue. A good day, he thought, a peaceful day. On the other side of the city was already at work. She was 28 and worked as a surgeon at the big hospital. She had been awake for 16 hours already. There was always another patient, always another life to save. She was tired, but she did not stop. She never stopped. Near Square, an old man named Park was setting up his food cart. He sold grilled meat on sticks, simple food, good food. He was 67 years old now, but his hands were still strong. They had to be. Those hands had held rifles once many years ago. He had been a general in the army, but that was the past. Now he just cooked meat and watched people walk by. Like the morning, it was calm. He could hear birds singing and cars honking and people talking. Normal sounds, human sounds. 4,000 light-years away, things were not calm at all. High Commander stood on the bridge of his massive warship. He was tall, even for a. His skin was gray and smooth like stone. His eyes were black and showed no feeling. Behind him, hundreds of officers worked at their stations. They were preparing for the invasion of a small blue planet called Earth. They had been conquering worlds for thousands of years. They were good at it. They had a system. First, they would study a planet for many years. They would learn about the creatures living there. Then they would attack fast and hard. Most species surrendered within days. Some fought back, but they always lost. Always. Looked at the information about Earth on his screen. The dominant species called themselves humans. They were soft creatures with no claws, no armor, no venom. They could not run fast. They could not see in the dark. They died easily from heat and cold. They were, by all measures, weak. "What do we know about them?" asked his analyst. The analyst, a younger named, pulled up more data. "They are social creatures, Commander. They live in large groups. They care for their young for many years. They make art and music. They appear to value something called love." Made a sound of disgust. "Love, sentiment, weakness." "Yes, Commander. Our drones have watched them for 200 years. We have seen them in their parks, their schools, their celebrations. They are emotional and fragile. Our projections say this invasion will take 3 rotations at most. 3 rotations to conquer an entire planet. They have no space travel, Commander. No energy shields, no plasma weapons. They are still burning dead plants for power. They are primitive." Smiled. It was not a kind smile. "Good, send the order. We descend in 1 hour." The fleet moved toward Earth. 12 massive ships, each one the size of a small city. They had enough soldiers to control 100 planets. For Earth, it was more than enough. Much more. Back on Earth, was eating breakfast when he heard something strange. A low hum in the air. It was coming from everywhere and nowhere. His coffee cup started to shake on the table. He walked to the window and looked up. The sky was changing. The clear blue was getting darker. Something was coming down through the clouds. Something huge. At the hospital, was in the middle of surgery when the lights flickered. The power came back on quickly, but she felt something wrong. She could not explain it. It was like the air itself was holding its breath. Looked up from his grill. He saw the shadow first. Then he saw the ship. It was bigger than anything he had ever seen, bigger than the mountains. It blocked out the sun. He had seen war before. He knew what was coming. All around the world the same thing was happening. Massive alien ships appeared over 12 major cities at the same time: New York, London, Tokyo, Beijing, Moscow, and Seoul. People stopped walking, they stopped talking, they just looked up with their mouths open. Then the message came. It played from every phone, every television, every radio. It spoke in every language on Earth. The voice was cold and mechanical. People of Earth, we are the Dominion. Your planet has been selected for resource collection. You will surrender all materials we require. You will not resist. Resistance is illogical. You have 1 hour to comply. This is your only warning. The message ended. Silence fell over the world. In the command ship, watched the humans on his screen. He saw them standing still. He saw fear on their faces. He was satisfied. This was always the best part. The moment when prey understood they were prey. They will surrender, he said confidently. They always do. Nodded, but something bothered him. He looked at the data again. There was something in the human files that he had not studied closely. A word that appeared many times in their history: war. The humans had been fighting each other for thousands of years. They had created weapons that could destroy their own cities. They had killed millions of their own kind. Why would a soft, loving, emotional species do that? Push the thought away. It did not matter. The humans had never faced they would break like all the others. Near Square was not running. He was not screaming. He was not hiding. He just stood by his cart, looking up at the massive ship in the sky. A young woman ran past him in panic. She stopped when she saw him standing so calmly. "Old man, what are you doing? We have to run." Turned to look at her. His eyes were steady. "Run where? They are everywhere." "Then what do we do?" Smiled. It was a strange smile, not afraid, almost excited. 1 hour, he said quietly. They gave us 1 hour. He started to laugh. That is very generous of them. The woman stared at him like he was crazy. Maybe he was, or maybe he knew something the aliens did not. Maybe he knew what humans were really capable of when they had no choice but to fight. The countdown had begun. 1 hour until the universe learned the truth about humanity. 1 hour until they made the biggest mistake in their history. The day invaders landed on Earth, and the Council realized humanity wasn't what they assumed. Part 2, what the drones never saw. The hour passed. The expected surrender. They expected white flags and crying and begging. They expected the humans to fall on their knees and offer everything they had. That is not what happened. When the first soldiers landed in Seoul, they were met with rocks, bottles, sticks, anything the people could find. An old woman hit a soldier with her umbrella. A teenager threw a bicycle at another. A group of office workers attacked with their briefcases. It was not organized. It was not smart. It was completely useless against soldiers in armor with plasma weapons. But it was not surrender. High Commander watched from his ship with confusion. "What are they doing?" he asked. "They cannot win with rocks." Studied the screens. His face showed worry. "They know they cannot win, Commander. They are fighting anyway." "That is stupid." "Yes, Commander, very stupid." In the streets of Seoul, the first wave of resistance was dying. They were too strong, too advanced. People fell. Blood ran in the gutters. It should have been over quickly. But something strange happened. Instead of running away from the danger, more humans came running toward it. They came from offices and shops and homes. They came with kitchen knives and baseball bats and their bare fists. They came knowing they would probably die. Heard the fighting from his apartment. He should have stayed inside. He should have hidden. That would have been the smart thing to do. Instead, he put on his boots and ran toward the smoke. He was a firefighter. He ran toward danger. That was his job. That was who he was. When he arrived at street, he saw a building on fire. Soldiers were marching past it, ignoring the screams coming from inside. Why would they care? The building would burn. The humans inside would die. It did not matter to them. Did not think. He just ran into the fire. A soldier saw him. The alien stopped and stared. It did not make sense. The human was running into a burning building. He was going to die. Why would he do that? The soldier watched as disappeared into the smoke. Minutes passed. The fire got worse. Then came out carrying a child in his arms. His clothes were burned. His skin was red and blistered. He could barely walk. But the child was alive. Passed the child to a woman who was crying and ran back into the building. The soldier kept watching. The human went in 3 more times. 3 more people came out alive. On the 4th trip, the roof collapsed. Everyone thought was dead. Then he crawled out of a window, dragging an old man behind him. The soldier sent a report to his commander. "The humans are defective," he wrote. "Their survival instinct is broken. They run toward death instead of away from it." At the hospital was operating on a wounded fighter when the power went out again. This time it did not come back on. She finished the surgery by the light of mobile phones held by nurses. When she was done, a young doctor told her they had to evacuate. They were coming. "I am not leaving," said. "I have patients." "They will kill you." "Then they will kill me in my hospital. I am not leaving my patients." She operated for 14 more hours. She lost some patients and saved others. When a soldier finally came into her operating room, she was covered in blood and so tired she could barely stand. The soldier raised his weapon, grabbed a surgical knife, and threw herself at him. She was small, she was exhausted, she was no soldier, but she would not give up. She cut the soldier's face before 2 more soldiers grabbed her. They were about to kill her when an officer stopped them. "Wait," the officer said. He was looking at with something like curiosity. "This one was saving the wounded. She is a healer." "She attacked our soldier." "Yes, a healer who attacks soldiers. Interesting." The officer ordered them to let her go. "Continue your work, human. We will watch." Went back to her patients. Her hands were shaking, but she kept working. She would not stop. She could not stop. Across the city was gathering people in the subway tunnels. He found other veterans, other old soldiers who remembered how to fight. He found young people with fire in their eyes. He found ordinary citizens who had never held a weapon but were willing to learn. "They think we are soft," told them. "They watched us during peacetime. They saw us playing with our children. They saw us helping old ladies cross the street. They saw us crying at sad movies." He smiled, and it was not a friendly smile. "They never saw us at war." A young man named stepped forward. He was 45 years old, big and strong from years of construction work. "I know how to use explosives," he said. "Before I built buildings, I learned how to destroy them." Nodded. "Good, what else do we have?" People started talking. Some knew the subway systems perfectly. Some knew how to hunt. Some had medical training. Some had military experience. Some had nothing but anger and courage. It was not an army, but it was a start. At a university across the city, a 19-year-old student named Han was hiding in a computer lab. She was scared, but she was also angry. Very angry. These aliens had come to her planet, to her home, and they expected everyone to just give up. No, that was not going to happen. Was good with computers, very good. She started trying to break into the communication systems. It took her 6 hours, but she did it. She could hear their soldiers talking. She could see their plans. She started broadcasting information to anyone who could receive it. "They are moving through. They are weak at the bridges. They do not like fire." The resistance grew. On the command ship was reading report after report. Each one was worse than the last. Humans were not surrendering. They were fighting in ways that made no sense. They were dying, but they were taking soldiers with them. One report described a human who strapped explosives to himself and ran into a group of soldiers. Another described humans who kept fighting with wounds that should have killed them. Another described a child, no older than 10 years, who spat in a soldier's face and said, "You will never win." Went to High Commander. Commander, he said carefully, we may have made an error in our assessment. Did not look happy. Explain. The humans are not behaving as predicted. Their fear response appears to be inverted. When they should run, they attack. When they should surrender, they resist. When they should think of themselves, they sacrifice for others. They are primitives having a tantrum. It will pass. Commander, with respect, I do not think it will pass. I have been studying their history more closely. They have fought wars that lasted for years, decades, centuries. They do not give up. They do not surrender. Even when they lose, they keep fighting. Waved his hand. Bring in more soldiers, crush them. Wanted to say more, but he knew it was useless. Was proud. He would not admit he had made a mistake. But was beginning to understand something terrible. They had been watching humans for 200 years. They had studied them in times of peace. They had seen their kindness, their love, their gentleness. They had never seen humans when they were angry. They had never seen humans when they were cornered. They had never seen humans when they had nothing left to lose. Now they were seeing it, and it was terrifying. In the subway tunnels, was giving his final instructions for the night. The universe thinks we are soft because we choose peace, he said. His voice was calm but strong. They look at us and see weakness because we love our children, because we help strangers, because we cry when we are sad. He paused and looked at every face in the tunnel. They are about to learn what we are capable of when we do not choose peace. They are about to learn what happens when you threaten everything we love. The people nodded. Their fear was still there, but something else was growing, something older, something deeper. Hope, rage, and the will to fight. The war had just begun. The day invaders landed on Earth, and the Council realized humanity wasn't what they assumed. Part 3. The Council convenes. 4,000 light-years from Earth, an emergency meeting was happening. The Galactic Council had not called an emergency meeting in over 100 years, but the news from Earth was too strange, too alarming to ignore. The council chamber was a massive room filled with representatives from 100 different species. Some were tall and thin, some were short and round, some had tentacles, some had wings, some did not have bodies at all, just floating clouds of light and thought. They were all watching the screens that showed the invasion of Earth. They were all confused. Counselor sat in her designated seat. She was a species that they had conquered 400 years ago. Her people had been slaves ever since. They had learned to be quiet, to be obedient, to survive. But deep inside, they had never stopped hopping for the day when they would fall. Now, watching the screens, felt something she had not felt in a very long time. Hope. This is impossible, said a council member from the front row. They have conquered thousands of worlds. They are losing to primitives with no space travel. Not losing, another member corrected. Not yet, but they are not winning either, and they should be winning easily. Stepped forward. She was the keeper of species records, a small creature with large eyes and many hands. Her job was to know everything about every species in the galaxy. I have reviewed the human file, said. Her voice was shaking slightly. The assessment rated them Category 7, pre-spacefaring, non-threatening, easily subjugated. The file lists their defining traits as empathy, capacity for love, and artistic expression. Those are prey traits, someone said. Species with those traits surrender. They always surrender. Yes, agreed. But there is more in the file, things that were not given proper weight. She pressed a button and new data appeared on the screens. Images, statistics, history. Humans hunted their planet's apex predators to extinction. For sport. For fun. They killed the largest, most dangerous animals on their world because they wanted to prove they could. The chamber was silent. They split the atom. They created weapons capable of destroying their entire planet. Then, instead of destroying the weapons, they built more. They pointed them at each other for decades, waiting to see who would use them first. More silence. Their history is an unbroken chain of war. They have fought each other for land, for resources, for religion, for ideas. They killed millions of their own species in single conflicts, not because they had to, because they chose to. A council member raised a tentacle, but the assessment said they were loving, gentle, they care for their young. They do, confirmed. That is the strange thing. They are capable of great love and great violence. Both exist inside them at the same time. The saw only the love. They never looked at the violence. How is that possible? How did they miss this? Because they studied humans in peacetime, explained. They watched parks and schools and festivals. They saw humans being kind to each other. They did not understand that humans choose to be kind. They are not kind because they are weak. They are kind because they are strong enough to choose kindness. Leaned forward in her seat, and when something threatens them, when they cannot choose kindness, hesitated, then they become something else entirely. From the back of the chamber, a very old voice spoke. I have seen this before. Everyone turned to look. The speaker was Counselor, an ancient being who had lived for thousands of years. He rarely spoke anymore. Most of the younger council members thought he was asleep most of the time. But he was awake now, and his eyes were sharp. There was another species like this, continued. Long ago, before most of you were born, they were called the small creatures, soft bodies. They sang to their children just like humans do. When we first found them, we thought they were harmless. He paused, the chamber waited. They destroyed 11 fleets before they were stopped. 11. They fought for 30 years. When they were finally defeated, they had reduced the empire by a third. What happened to them? Someone asked. They burned themselves out. Their rage was so great that they destroyed everything, including themselves. In the end, there was nothing left. Shook his head slowly. But humanity is different, worse in a way. Worse how? They had contact with other species. They learned violence from the galaxy, but humans. His voice dropped to almost a whisper. Humans developed their aggression in complete isolation. No one taught them to fight. No one showed them how to hate. They created it all on their own from nothing over thousands and thousands of years. The chamber was completely silent now. Everyone was thinking the same thing, but no one wanted to say it. Finally spoke. You are saying that humans are naturally violent, that aggression is part of their basic nature. I am saying, replied, that humans contain multitudes. They can build hospitals and concentration camps. They can write poetry and design nuclear weapons. They can die for strangers and kill for nothing. All of these things are human. All of these things are true. On the screens, the battle for Earth continued. The humans were still fighting, still dying, still refusing to give up. A young council member spoke up nervously. What do we do? If they fail, should we send our own forces? Laughed, it was not a happy sound. Send forces, against them. No, if they cannot defeat these humans with their full invasion force, we cannot defeat them either. No one can. Then what? We watch, we wait, and we hope. Hope for what? Looked at the screens again. A human city was burning, but the people were still fighting from the ruins. A human woman was carrying a wounded child through the smoke. A human man was facing down an alien soldier with nothing but a metal pipe. We hope that when this is over, the humans are not angry at us, said. We hope they choose kindness again. Stood up, perhaps we should not just hope, perhaps we should help them. Many council members gasped, help them against the. Why not? They have conquered and enslaved half the galaxy. They have taken our resources, killed our people, destroyed our cultures. Are we really going to sit here and watch them do the same to another species? If we help the humans and the win, they will destroy us all. Smiled, it was a cold smile full of old anger. Look at the screens. Does it look like they are winning? She turned to address the full council. For 400 years, my people have been waiting for someone to stand against the. We were too weak, too scared, too broken. But these humans, these primitives with no space travel and no energy weapons, they are doing what we never could. They are fighting back. She pointed at the screens. They will probably lose. They are outmatched and outnumbered, but they are showing the whole galaxy that they can bleed, that they can fail, that they are not gods. The chamber was stirring now. Species that had been silent for centuries were whispering to each other. Old grievances were waking up. Old hopes were being remembered. I propose, continued, that we send a message to Earth. A secret message. Not military support, not yet, just information, technology, anything that might help them survive a little longer. Nodded slowly. That would be wise, but be careful, counselor. These humans are not like us. They are wild and unpredictable. If we help them and they survive, they may become the new power in this galaxy. They may be worse than the. Looked at the screens one more time. A young human girl was leading a group of survivors through the rubble of what used to be a shopping center. She was maybe 19 years old. She was carrying a computer and a weapon. Maybe, said, or maybe they will be something new, something we have never seen before. She sat back down. The council began to vote. 4,000 light-years away, the humans kept fighting, unaware that the whole galaxy was watching, unaware that they were being reconsidered, unaware that their battle was changing everything. But even if they had known, they probably would not have cared. They had a planet to save. The day invaders landed on Earth, and the council realized humanity wasn't what they assumed. Part 4. The Nature of the Beast. 2 weeks into the invasion, they held the cities but could not keep them. They would clear a street in the morning. By afternoon, the humans were back. They came out of subway tunnels and sewer pipes and hidden basements. They attacked and vanished like ghosts. They set traps that killed soldiers in the night. They fought with stolen weapons, homemade bombs, and bare hands. High Commander was furious. He had conquered dozens of worlds. He had never seen anything like this. How are they still fighting? He demanded in his command room. We destroyed their government. We control their communications. We have air superiority. How are they still organized? No one had a good answer. The answer was a 19-year-old university student named Han, who had not slept more than 3 hours a night since the invasion began. Had set up her base in an abandoned server room under her university. They had destroyed most of the obvious communication towers, but they did not understand how the human internet worked. There were 100 ways to send messages if you knew how to look. And knew how to look. She had built a network of hackers and programmers across the country. They listened to communications. They decoded their patrol schedules. They found weaknesses in their technology, and they shared everything with the resistance. They are moving a supply convoy through tonight, announced through her hidden network. 20 vehicles, light guard, hit them at the intersection at midnight. In the subway tunnels of Seoul, received the message. He smiled his thin, dangerous smile. You heard the girl, he said to his fighters. Let us go shopping. The attack on the convoy was quick and brutal. Had rigged the intersection with explosives from his construction days. When the convoy arrived, the ground swallowed the first 5 vehicles. The fighters attacked from every direction. Within 10 minutes, it was over. They lost 20 vehicles and 50 soldiers. The humans took their weapons, their food, their medical supplies. They vanished before reinforcements could arrive. This happened every night, in every city all over the world. On the command ship was studying humans with new intensity. He had been wrong about them. Everyone had been wrong about them. Now he needed to understand why. He started with their biology. What he found amazed him. They have a chemical called adrenaline, he reported to his team. When they are scared or angry, their bodies release this chemical. It makes them faster and stronger. It blocks pain. It allows them to keep fighting with injuries that would kill other species. Many species have similar responses, one of his assistants said. Yes, but humans have something else. They have endurance, extreme endurance. Most predator species are designed for quick attacks, chase, kill, rest. But humans evolved as persistent hunters. They would follow their prey for days, never stopping until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. Pulled up more data. Do you understand what this means? Humans are not designed for quick battles. They are designed for long wars. They get stronger over time, not weaker. His assistant looked worried. What about their psychology, their emotions? That is the most interesting part, showed them the data. When humans experience trauma together, they form deep bonds. They call it brotherhood. They become more unified, more loyal, more willing to sacrifice for each other. The more we hurt them, the more connected they become. That makes no sense. Trauma should break a group apart. For most species, yes, but humans are different. They turn pain into strength. They turn anger into action. They turn loss into motivation. Shook his head slowly. We thought their love was weakness. We were wrong. Their love is the most dangerous thing about them. They will die for strangers. They will kill for people they have never met. There is no logic to it, and that makes it impossible to predict. The soldiers on the ground were learning this the hard way. In one incident, a squad captured a group of human civilians and threatened to execute them unless the local resistance surrendered. They expected the humans to give up to save their people. Instead, the civilians themselves attacked the soldiers. Old men and women, teenagers, children. They jumped on the armed soldiers with their bare hands, clawing and biting and screaming. Half of them died, but they gave the resistance time to arrive. When it was over, they had lost another squad. The humans held funerals for the civilians who died. They cried and hugged each other. Then they picked up their weapons and went back to fighting. The soldiers began to fear the humans, not because humans were strong, but because they could not be predicted. They did not act like any species that had ever conquered. Some humans would surrender peacefully, then attack when the soldiers turned their backs. Some would fight to the death over a single building. Some would walk into certain death with smiles on their faces. And they played games with the minds. The resistance fighters learned that the feared unpredictability, so they became as unpredictable as possible. They left strange symbols painted on walls. They played music in the middle of the night. They moved in patterns that made no tactical sense, appearing and disappearing in random locations. One officer broke down after a human child, maybe 10 years old, walked up to him in the street. The girl was not running. She was not crying. She was not even armed. She just looked at him with calm, steady eyes. "You are going to lose," she said. "Everyone knows it, even you." Then she walked away. The officer had to be taken off duty. He could not stop seeing those eyes in his dreams. Had become a legend without meaning to. People called him the ghost of Seoul. He moved through the occupied city like a shadow, finding people trapped in buildings and leading them to safety. He knew every street, every alley, every hidden path. They could not catch him. He did not feel like a hero. He felt tired, scared, broken. His hands shook when he was alone. He had nightmares about the people he could not save. But every morning he got up and went back out into the city because there was always someone who needed help. One night he found himself in the same street where his wife used to live. The building was destroyed now, just rubble and ash. He did not know if she was alive or dead. He hoped she had gotten out of the city before the invasion. He hoped she was safe somewhere. He stood there for a long time, looking at the ruins. Then he heard a child crying in a nearby building. He wiped his eyes and went to find them. On the command ship was facing a problem he had never faced before. His soldiers were losing morale. They were scared. They did not want to patrol human streets anymore. He called for reinforcements from the home world. The response he received was not what he expected. "Reinforcements have been reconsidered," the message said. "The Galactic Council is observing the situation. You are on your own, Commander. Complete your mission or withdraw. Those are your only options." Stared at the message for a long time. The Council was watching. That meant they were measuring the humans, waiting to see who would win. If failed here, the whole galaxy would see it. Species that had been conquered for centuries would start to wonder, start to hope, start to rebel. He could not lose, he would not lose. But looking at the reports from Earth, looking at the endless list of dead soldiers and lost equipment and impossible human resistance, he was starting to wonder if he had a choice. The humans were not winning, not exactly. They were losing soldiers and civilians every day. Their cities were in ruins. Their infrastructure was destroyed. But they were still fighting. After 2 weeks, they were still fighting. And they showed no signs of stopping. In the tunnels under Seoul, gathered his officers for a meeting. "They expected this to be over in 3 days," he said. "It has been 2 weeks. They are scared, tired, and far from home. We are scared, tired, and fighting for our home. That is the difference." He looked at each of them. "We cannot beat them in open battle. We do not have the weapons or the training, but we do not need to beat them. We just need to survive, keep surviving, keep fighting. Make every day cost them more than they are willing to pay." Looked up from her computer. "I intercepted a message from their command ship. They asked for reinforcements. The request was—" The room went quiet. "They are alone," said slowly. A real smile, the first in weeks, crossed his face. "They are alone and we are not." The tide was beginning to turn. The day invaders landed on Earth, and the Council realized humanity wasn't what they assumed. Part 5, The Breaking Point. Week 4 of the invasion, the humans launched their counterattack. It happened everywhere at the same time. Every occupied city, every country, every continent, midnight local time. The whole planet rose up as one. Had spent 3 days coordinating with resistance groups around the world. It was the hardest thing she had ever done. Languages, time zones, different technologies, different strategies. But she made it work. She was not going to let her planet die because of a scheduling problem. At exactly midnight in Seoul, gave the order. "Now," he said simply. The city exploded into action. Hidden fighters poured out of subway stations and basements and ruined buildings. They hit every position at the same time. Confusion turned to chaos. Chaos turned to disaster. Brought down an entire occupied building with explosives he had been hiding for weeks. 50 soldiers were buried in the rubble. A group of restaurant workers attacked a patrol with kitchen knives and boiling oil. University students overran a communication center using homemade weapons and pure fury. And this was happening everywhere. London, Paris, New York, Tokyo, Mumbai, Cairo. Every city, every town, every place where humans still lived, the fight was on. High Commander watched his screens in horror. Red alerts were appearing faster than he could read them. Losses were mounting by the minute. His carefully planned occupation was falling apart. "How are they coordinating this?" he shouted at his officers. "We control their communication systems." No one had an answer. They did not understand that humans were creative, that they had found 100 ways to talk to each other without using the systems they controlled, that they had been planning this for weeks. Was watching too. He was not surprised. He had been expecting something like this, but he had not expected it to be so effective. "Commander," he said quietly, "I recommend we consider withdrawal." Spun to face him, his eyes were blazing. "Withdrawal? You want me to run from primitives?" "I want us to survive, Commander. The Council is watching. If we lose here completely, publicly, it will be worse than withdrawal. It will be the end of authority in this sector." "We are not losing." Looked at the screens. Half of their ground positions were under attack. A quarter had already fallen. More were falling every minute. "Commander," he said carefully, "we are losing." Insole was leading a team toward the medical ship. It was parked near the Han River, surrounded by guards. A stupid position, she thought. The river gave them cover to approach. Her team was not made up of soldiers. They were doctors and nurses and paramedics. They did not carry guns. They carried medical supplies. "Why are we attacking a medical ship?" one of the young nurses asked. "We are healers, not fighters." Smiled, "We are not attacking, we are visiting." They approached the ship from the water, using small boats that barely made a sound. The guards were looking inland, watching for the usual resistance attacks. They did not expect anyone to come from the river. The team got on the ship through a maintenance hatch. Inside, they found what they expected: wounded soldiers, hundreds of them. The invasion had cost the aliens dearly. The guards inside the ship raised their weapons when they saw the humans, but raised her hands. "We are not here to fight," she said. "We are here to help." The guards hesitated. They did not understand. Walked to the nearest wounded soldier. He had lost a limb and was in obvious pain. She looked at him with the same eyes she used for every patient, human or alien. "May I?" she asked. The soldier stared at her. Then slowly he nodded. She treated his wound. She stopped his pain. She saved his life. One by one, her team moved through the ship. They treated every wounded they could find. Some of the soldiers fought them. Most did not. They were too confused, too weak, too tired of fighting. When was done, she left a note for the ship's commander. "We could have destroyed this ship. We chose to save your wounded instead. Think about what that means." She and her team disappeared into the night. The news spread through the ranks faster than any battle report. The humans had captured a medical ship. They could have blown it up. Instead, they had healed the enemy. Some soldiers thought it was a trick. Some thought it was a sign of weakness. But some, including, understood what it really meant. The humans were not monsters. They were not mindless killers. They were people who could choose mercy even when they had every reason to choose revenge. That made them more terrifying, not less. Near Square, the final battle was happening. And his fighters had pushed through to the central command area. Most of the forces were scattered, dealing with attacks across the city. Only a small guard remained. And High Commander found him in the ruins of a palace that had stood for 600 years. The alien commander was alone. His guards were dead or gone. His communication equipment was destroyed. He had only his personal weapon left. He raised it when he saw. "Come to kill me, human." Walked forward slowly. He was wounded, tired, old. He had been fighting for a month with almost no rest. He should have been dead several times over. But he was still standing. "No," said, "I came to give you a choice." Laughed. It was a harsh, angry sound. "A choice? You are one old human, you have nothing. What can you offer me?" "I can offer you life," said. "For you and your soldiers, surrender, share your technology with us. Leave our planet. In return, we will not follow you into space. We will not hunt you, we will let you go." "And if I refuse?" Looked up at the sky, followed his gaze. The sky was full of lights, not stars, missiles, drones, aircraft. Every weapon humanity had left was pointed at the ships. "You had nuclear weapons aimed at yourselves for decades," said quietly. "Did you really think we would not point them at you?" Stared at the lights in the sky. He had not known. His intelligence had been wrong about so many things. Why not this too? "You would destroy your own planet to defeat us." "If we had to, yes." His voice was calm, certain. "That is what you never understood about us. We do not fight to win. We fight until there is nothing left, and we make sure there is nothing left for the enemy either." Lowered his weapon. For the first time he looked old, tired, beaten. "Your species is insane," he said. "Maybe," agreed, But we are free, and we intend to stay that way." Was silent for a long moment. Then he reached for his communicator. "All forces, this is High Commander, stand down. Repeat, stand down. The invasion is over." The message went out across the planet, across the solar system, across the galaxy. The head lost. On the command ship, sent his final report to the Galactic Council. "Recommend immediate reclassification," he wrote. "Humanity is not Category 7. They are Category 1, Apex. Do not engage. Do not provoke. Do not underestimate. They are the most dangerous species we have ever encountered, not because of their weapons or their technology, but because of what they are willing to do for each other." He paused, then added one more line. "And they showed us mercy when they did not have to. Remember that when you deal with them in the future." He sent the message and watched the human planet turning below. He could see fires still burning in the cities. He could see the damage of a month of war. But he could also see lights coming on, people coming out of hiding, life returning to the streets. They had survived. Against all odds, they had survived. And the galaxy would never look at them the same way again. In the ruins of Sol picked up a strange signal on her equipment. It was coming from space, not from the ships. She decoded it with shaking hands. "People of Earth, we have watched your struggle, we have seen your courage, we would like to talk. If you are willing, respond on this frequency. We are friends." The message was signed with a symbol she did not recognize. She looked at who had returned from with blood on his clothes and victory in his eyes. "We have a message," she said, "from someone who is not." Took the paper from her and read it. For a long moment he said nothing. Then he laughed. It was a real laugh, full of something that might have been joy. "It seems," he said, "that we have gotten the attention of the universe." The war was over. But humanity's story in the stars was just beginning.